When Canadian artist Regina Seiden left Paris in 1935 to return to Montreal, war in Europe was imminent. She left behind a stash of her paintings. She never saw them again. Back in Canada, Seiden more or less abandoned her art career and let her husband Eric Goldberg get on with his. In an interview in 1979, she said, "I only blame myself. I just wanted to live for him." Seiden was born in Rigaud, Quebec in 1897. A daughter of Jewish immigrants, she grew up in Montreal and studied art there. The 1920s were her most productive decade. She went to Paris to continue her studies. She exhibited in Montreal, Paris, and London, and the National Gallery of Canada snapped up 3 of her paintings. Then, in 1928, she got married. The couple settled in Paris. They were supposed to share a studio, but Seiden was not happy with the arrangement. She couldn't work with anyone else in the room, but she never told her husband. Around this time, her husband depicted her at work. With her back to us, she's painting what looks like a portrait. He signed the watercolor by putting his signature into the painting she is working on. Seiden's repertoire focused on women and landscapes. In painting women, she tapped into a traditional subject for a woman artist. But she was a modernist who embraced a loosely representational, simplified style, one that was still relatively new to Canada and not particularly popular. Seiden was also an original member of the Beaver Hall Group, a collective of modern artists who painted and exhibited together in Montreal in the 1920s. Producing portraits of the rich and famous helped many Canadian artists pay the bills. Seiden was well known for her portraits of women, some more ordinary than others. The sitter in Old Immigrant Woman is neither rich nor famous. Completed in 1922, the painting belongs to the Art Gallery of Hamilton. It was one of the works showcasing the best of Canadian art at the British Empire exhibition in England in 1924. Seiden ennobles the woman by letting her dominate the composition. Instead of a fashionable outfit, she wears a modest dark shawl that covers her head, shoulders, and chest, a white blouse, a striped jacket and skirt. The darker tones of the clothing draw attention to her face and hands. Her body faces left, but her head turns to gaze directly, almost critically, at the viewer. The corners of her mouth turn slightly downward. Her hands rest in her lap. The hands look tense, as though she is not quite comfortable being in the limelight. She may also be uncomfortable because her hands are idle. Not working is unfamiliar to her. The background consists of a subtle pattern of brushstrokes. Portrait of Dora was executed in 1923 and bought by the National Gallery of Canada a year later. Seiden captures her friend Theodora Gidlow in a thoughtful pose. Her gaze seemingly turned inward, she has her hands folded in her lap. The wide-brimmed hat and long string of beads enliven her casual blue dress. Seiden portrayed her friend in paint. Dora, a poet and writer, returned the favour using words. She wrote to her sister Elsa Gidlow that Seiden was, quote, like a dreamy purring kitten, velvety and luxurious. Some of Seiden's images of women portray rural life, as in Girl Washing Dishes on a Farm, painted in 1922. It belongs to the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Images of women at work in the home were popular subjects in the 19th and early 20th centuries. A woman stands with her back to us at a table in a sparsely furnished kitchen. She has her left hand in a basin. She faces a big window. A wide-brimmed straw hat, a staple of farm life, lies on the windowsill. Sunny yellows dominate. Yellow and white highlights illuminate the woman's face. Seiden's style is sketchy. Obvious brushstrokes, the marks of a modernist, are everywhere. The cloth hanging from the table is painted in uneven vertical and horizontal strokes. not in imitation of fabric folds. Likewise, the woman's blouse comprises white and yellow strokes running in many directions. In simplifying the composition, Seiden stresses the geometric shapes of objects rather than imitating reality. The window, for instance, is an emphatic rectangle, and its panes squares. The legs and ends of the table offer another square, and the woman's apron adds another rectangle. In Nudes, painted around 1925, Seiden tackles the nude. The female nude still belonged to the male artist. Seiden, like other modern female artists, was challenging that tradition. Two women sit in front of a landscape. The setting might be an artist's studio, a popular 19th and 20th century subject. The women are probably models, and the landscape a big painting. Seiden's landscapes include European and Canadian views. In this harbour scene, a bridge links the water to the land rising beyond it. Canoes rest in the water, which Seiden renders with thick horizontal brushstrokes. Seiden's early art was a promising start to a career that never fully bloomed. She died in Montreal in 1991 at the age of 93.